everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. You're with Simon today, and I'm basically sharing with you a video that I'm not really sure what the intention is behind it, to be honest. More along the lines of maybe reflecting how the astrological signs show us our natural spiritualization and how to maybe even connect them. Maybe even giving some insights as to what the natural process is for natural spiritualization and the path to it. Now, of course, many of us that you're watching this video have probably got in some way, shape or form a good idea of what that means or how it works. So this is not like an educational one per se, but it is basically showing you how astrology and its archetypal structure can get us to the same point, maybe basically. So this picture that I've used is just amazing because it captures all the essences that are within a spiritual story. Now, as you know, I work with Evolutionary Astrology, and it contains within it the core paradigm of how to naturally spiritualize, how to objectify one's own life from that point of view, and to see how that journey takes place, wrapped up in Pluto as desire and such. But the three main archetypal structures that we use in the birth charts to be able to understand how to naturally spiritualize and how you can do this in your own chart is the sign or the archetype of Saturn, Neptune, and the Moon. And I see that the ocean represents the Neptunian archetype with a field of consciousness. I see Saturn as the boat in which we are existing within. And because Saturn and the Moon, or Cancer and Capricorn, represent the same sort of structure, I see that the image that is contained within that boat in itself, or the people that are existing within it, is the sort of precious cargo. And they're heading for the dark night of the soul. They're heading for the cave in which we're going to explore the human experience. And it's kind of fitting because it's the head. So it reflects how we descend from the head into the body to explore the nature of our karma and trauma and all of that. But there's the sea just being this open field of consciousness, and the boat being our one lifetime sort of desire, the structure of our soul. So it's an awesome picture. To make it more like clearer in terms of how we see it in our lives, Saturn shows up as the physical body, okay? The Moon shows up as the astral body or our emotional body. And Neptune is transcendence, okay? So this picture over here, compliments of the Cube Major Arcanum, who had created something like this. I mean, this is I've had this on my PC for ages, and I've really I fell in love with it straight away, but I didn't really know what to do with it until probably about a week ago. And so here, this video is being played out. And it only dropped in my consciousness just recently as well as to how important this was. And then I was skirting around the information, but I wasn't really deeply knowing it. Hence the video now. So you can see that there are these three bodies that we as human beings have. I've spoken in most of my videos about multidimensional transcendence and stuff like that. And so this would be like the physical representation or visual aid to help us become aware of these multidimensional transpersonal experiences, okay? So on the left-hand side, or pardon me, the right-hand side, you can see Saturn, okay? Or the archetype of Saturn. Let me just get my dude up over there. So we get Saturn over there. And he represents the actual structure of the body, which is completely exactly how it is. It's the structure of our society. It's the bone structure in our bodies. It's the skin. It's the physical incarnation, physicality. And so therefore, our boundaries, right? What we are limited by. So our physical limitations represents the thing that keeps us into the karmic field, i.e. this is our vortex of energy that we manifest from. But it is also the thing that keeps us in this solar system. So if we had to visit Altaria or other types of star systems and stuff, we would actually have to remove ourselves from the limitations of this physical body and actually move into their solar system itself, which can be an entirely different thing. So the point is that if we incarnate onto Earth with this solar system, it doesn't make sense to fly off into different other ones, exploring them, when the choice was to come here to do whatever it was in this field. Therefore, stay in the body, work with the body. The body is the limitation. The limitation is your soul's growth. In that sense, Earth. Okay? So we have that physical temple. Okay? And then we have the 4th D, or hologen, or etheric body, right? The astral body, or in this case, the emotional body, the self, the moon. Okay? And the moon reflects the vehicle in which we carry our relationship to Saturn with. So this is why we always have the father principle in some way, shape, or form, reflecting the boundaries, the way that we define ourselves, and the emotional body being the way that we inwardly see ourselves and feel about things. And this is where we get majorly conflicted in our lives, because we look outside of ourselves for all the answers, and yet the feelings that are residing within us are the very things that are telling us what to do and what not to do. And this is why it's always like, look inside, find the answers with inside, resonate with inside. But we don't do that because we're so caught up in the existential world that we don't actually seek and find and experience and strengthen the emotional body. And I'm one of those people that have had to deal with that, you know, as I've grown up in my life. But now that I understand the story so incredibly much, it's like that's one of the only things that I do focus on a lot, is how do those feelings represent myself or flow within my body, and how are they representing my soul's journey? So the 4th D exists there. And then you have the 5th D, or rainbow electrical body, right? And so what happens is that we have this 3rd dimension and this 5th dimension, and everybody's going, okay, I want to exist in the 5th dimension, I want to exist in the 5th dimension. And it's like, okay, that's great, but there's the problem. All of us carry with us the emotional and energetic debris in the 4th dimension, which we don't clear. So we don't clear our karma. And when we don't clear our karma, it creates blocks, stopping us from experiencing the 5th dimension emotional energy field. Okay? So this is the clarity that needs to be happened with Neptune. Neptune can either reflect duality through frozen emotions that are represented or stuck in duality, or it can represent oneness or universal oneness or emotional oneness. And so this is what we're seeking. This is the way to spiritual. This is the place that you want to be working with. You want to be working to create and experience mystical and emotional oneness in yourself through the emotional body, through the 4th dimension. So you've got to actually go through that period to be able to get to the 5th, so that the Neptune insights and inspirations and electrical feelings of joy and ecstasy can be pulsating through. Whereas if the karma is there, it's blocked it, and it just stops there. And all of that stuff just comes out as duality and unhappiness and sickness. And where does, of course, that all manifest itself? The body. So the point we're trying to make here is that the spiritual journey first begins with realizing this temple and understanding this temple is a physical representation of a combination of those two, okay? And a combination of those two is what you are working with as a multidimensional being. And when you open yourself up to these layers and you start working on this emotional karma, i.e. guilt, feelings, shame, etc., and you work through them, you clear them, you ground them into the physical, whatever technique you need to use to clear them, self-acceptance, so on and so forth, then we can allow the Neptune energy to move through us. So in a spiritual state, it is Neptune, Moon, Saturn in your chart. And you analyze those intensely to understand the natural way that you're spiritualized in your life. The world at this point in time keeps people out of this emotional body, i.e. the feminine energy, and suppressed patriarchy. And then basically what happens is that we've had all the diseases in the 3rd D body, and it's separation. This is the anger, this is the war, this is the frustration, this is the projection, this is the pain, yada, yada, yada. Because it's separated from unity. It's in duality. Does that make sense? So here's an astrology chart that is my own, and I wanted to reflect to you the nature of my own soul. So Saturn sits in my 10th house, conjunct Sun, in Scorpio. Okay, so this is the kind of ship that I use to navigate myself. So in this lifetime, my body shows up as this need to structure the boundaries around me and to put stronger boundaries in place and to not allow my energetic field to be used up. Because if you look, the moon opposes my Neptune. And so I'm like incredibly open to everything and everything. And it actually causes a problem because that openness allows me to basically take on energies or inspirations, ideas, perspectives, etc., to the point where I don't know who I am and I don't know what else is another thing. It's like that distortion. It doesn't actually happen as much now as it did maybe when I was growing up, but that Neptune is sitting waiting over there and it's saying, hey, the natural way to spiritualize is to find inspiration through the groups, through the types of groups that you exist within and the belief systems that are naturally associated with it. And the moon in the fifth house is saying, communicate those natural inspirations, communicate your natural individuality, communicate your natural story, and so on. And the way that you do that is by strengthening your sense of authority within your own life and actually guiding your own life in that way. And if you can manifest it in that way, you can actually create the natural life and how you naturally spiritualize and come to know your soul on a deep level. And here I am, raising vibrations. The work, Saturn, the inspiration coming from the groups of ideas and people that I speak to, and then communication in an objective way to everybody in YouTube, onto readings, etc., writing, and so on and so forth. Pretty neat, isn't it? All right, guys. Well, I hope that gave you some insight into something. And you can go check that out on your own chart over there. If you want to know how to do that with me, you can always book a reading with myself, or just do some research and stuff. But I would be very careful to make sure that you're being specific on this, because it is something that does require deep reflection. Okay. And the thing that I want to say just before we go is the natural spiritualization comes through this. So when you're in the physical and you have your limitations, the reflections, the deeply reflecting and sitting and pondering and feeling into the experience allows you to access the fifth dimension. It's not a place that you go through higher consciousness or blah, 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 blah. It's through deeply feeling into experiences that allows you to find natural compassion and empathy. And then you embody that in the physical. So it's about embodying compassion. It's about embodying love, not just saying it. All right, guys, have a wonderful week and I'll speak to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.